So welcome everyone to this stream. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you are building some awesome stuff. The goal of these streams is just to continue to try and help the developer ecosystem making the best mini apps as possible. We want to let you know what is going on with mini apps in the latest Coinbase Wallet. What are the changes that we're making? What are any recommendations that we have to developers overall, but also to reflect these changes that we're making. Hopefully should be pretty minimal. We're going to go through all those. We're going to go through some new docs. We're going to go through just some general pointers for building mini apps. And then at the end, we are actually going to pull up the new Coinbase Wallet. We're going to test your mini apps live. So if you're watching right now and you have a mini app that you want us to test, please put the full link. We'll give you some live thoughts, just overall thoughts on anything you may want to change to make it work even better in a Coinbase Wallet. But without further ado, let's get started here. Cool. So as I just stated, the agenda is we're going to go over some really quick changes to our docs. Again, these are just docs that we have to hopefully better convey all of the stuff that we have going on. We're going to give a little bit more of an overview of just mini apps in general, go over common issues, and then spend some time looking at some guides, demos live, and then as I said, we're going to pull up the app. And if you have any questions along the way or at the end, feel free to let us know and we'll get to those. Great. So latest docs changes. I'm going to pull up the docs for those. So if you haven't already, I will go put this in the chat in a second. If you go to docs.base.org here, you can just click on the side where it says wallet app and click into mini apps. This document here are essentially our official recommendations on making sure that your mini apps work as smooth as possible in this Coinbase wallet. All the other docs are a little bit more focused on specific implementations with our different kits. So for example, mini kit, on-chain kit, agent kit, you can find those docs here as well. But in terms of the changes we made, one is just to let folks know that with the auth addresses work, hopefully sign in with Farcaster is going to be even smoother. So if you're in the beta and you've tested out sign in with Farcaster, you may know that a little toast comes up. It has you deep link out to the Farcaster app, formerly known as Warpcast. You'd have to approve, go back in, etc. With auth addresses, this essentially lets a developer client like Coinbase Wallet verify that another wallet like the Coinbase Smart Wallet that is used in Coinbase Wallet, that can be used to sign these Ethereum signatures in the sign in with Farcaster flow. Right now, only the custody address works. And so that's why you have to keep going out to the Farcaster app. But with this, you are going to be able to just sign in directly in Coinbase Wallet without having to deep link out to another app, which is going to be awesome for everyone. Hopefully for you as a developer, that just means much smoother UX and less kind of like code to have to change implementation in one client versus another. So we are very thrilled about that and appreciative for all the Farcaster team's hard work in putting all that together.
Dylan, could I ask a question about that one before we
for sure
before we go away? Will that make any difference in how we set up our manifests? Like now that we'll have auth addresses?
That is a good question. I do not believe so. I can double check in post if I were to stand corrected there, but I don't believe that should make any changes. I think if you're a developer, if you're using the Farcaster SDK directly, I think all you have to do is you add a parameter to the sign-in, and it just says allow auth addresses true. I will double check if you're using MiniKit. I'll double check to see if there's like anything that you need to change there. But I'd like to think that this pretty much just happens out of the box for you, which is the real benefit here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then the other two ones that we have, another is that for certain developers have share buttons in their mini apps, which are really key to this virality loop of seeing a mini app, sharing it, and that's what gets things on the feed, especially for these quiz types of mini apps. It's a really great distribution strategy to have. There is now a compose cast function. It is both in the Frame SDK, and I'm pretty sure that this is something that we already support in MiniKit, but if not, I will double check and put up something about it. But it takes If you were using the Farcaster specific deep links to compose cast, this takes the exact same parameters. It's very intuitive. You can put in text, you can navigate, if you're casting in a channel, embeds, etc. It's pretty simple. And this just makes it easier. Again, that function works across clients. If you were to use it in the Farcaster app as well, it just works the same as it did before. So we definitely recommend moving over to that if you haven't already. And if you haven't added a share button yet, then I would recommend using Compose Cast.
And this already works with MiniKit.
Perfect. Thank you for confirming. That's amazing. And then the real big one that we have here is around wallet interactions. So, using a wallet is something really core to a mini app. I think that's also something that differentiates a mini app from just another programmable web app in another ecosystem, is that you have this crypto native context, both from the social aspect and the Farcaster aspect of pulling in your friends and your recent history, but also from a transaction that you're actually receiving, paying, sending, all the stuff that goes in with doing things on chain. And a really great example of a mini app just off the top of my head that does this is Warp Slot. I could just go click in, I'm playing a game for fun. It's a little bit mindless, but I think games can be mindless in a good way because you're like engaging with the thing. And as I'm just tapping the buttons, every once in a while I win and some tokens get airdropped to my wallet. And that is a really great experience. And without any shade towards them, because I think they're awesome, one unfortunate scenario right now is there's not a way for me to change any setting in this mini app so that the funds instead go to my Coinbase wallet. And that is because there are probably other ways that the developer is reading a wallet that is convenient for them right now, which I totally understand. And so a lot of the funds may be going to the Warplet or the Farcaster embedded wallet. But we would love a world where a user has a little bit more say in which of these wallets they are transacting with or they're having funds sent to, etc. And so one kind of low lift strategy that we offer up here is if you're using MiniKit directly, we have a wallet component. It will now auto connect directly when you open the mini app. So you literally don't have to do any work. The user is explicitly setting which wallet they want to use because they're actively connecting it in a session. And you can, use that wallet for any sort of funds. If you want to go even a step further, it would be very cool or neat if your mini app had some sort of drop down where you could go in and the user could select, hey, I want funds to go to my Coinbase wallet or my Farcaster embedded wallet or this other verified wallet or another EOA. But we're offering up wallet here as we think it's just like a very happy path, can help out with a lot of things generally from a developer perspective, and it's built into MiniKit. So if you're already using MiniKit, you could just benefit from this outside of the box. And so, we would just like highly recommend that in terms of thinking about a multi-client world where a user has different wallets and they want to have a bit of a say over where those funds are going. But all that to be said, we love all these different mini apps that do stuff with wallets. We love Warp Slot, and we want folks to continue building and experimenting there.
Dylan, I'd love to hear your opinion. Which path do you think is the optimal path? Like for myself, like you just said, like on-chain kit will have like the on-chain kit connect button will silently connect now, like with the user's wallet. Either be the Warplet or it'll be the new Coinbase wallet. Or should we give them like a choice? Like what path do you suggest for builders right now?
That's a good question. I think the tough thing is that there are certain scenarios like a Warp Slot, I'm just using it as an example here, like where it makes more sense for the developer to have a wallet set in the background, right? Like the friction wouldn't be great if like every time I use Warp Slot, I had to go in and change it. I think, and this is just a gut thought, like if a mini app is very dependent on having like a saved wallet, then I do think it is important for the user to have some say in changing it, even if it's just in the settings. I think otherwise, the developer should try and use the Farcaster identity as like the internal source of truth, and they should adapt to whatever the connected wallet session is, so that if I'm connecting with the Farcaster embedded wallet, if I'm connecting with the Coinbase Smart Wallet, it's essentially the same experience for me, just the funds or the transaction is happening from somewhere else, but I'm still the same account. I still have the same profile picture, username, etc.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, and developers, like, we're still working through this. We want it to be the best experience for anyone, everyone. So if you have any like particular thoughts or learnings from this, saying like, hey, like we've tried this strategy and it just like didn't really work well for us, like we would love to brainstorm or just make this great. So feel free to reach out to us. Great. Okay, let's go back to the slides then. Something else that we wanted to go over are just general common issues. We think it's still day one for mini apps. We think they can, be massive. We love all of the energy that's been happening in the mini app ecosystem right now. And with that said, we all just want to continue to make it a better platform. We want mini apps to work better in Coinbase Wallet. We want them to work better overall. We want the quality of mini apps to continue to increase. And so we just want to call out some of the things that we see are common issues, whether it's with general UX, with making the mini app work well in Coinbase Wallet. And we'll kind of stop and say a couple things on all of these. One, which I think we're moving a little further away from, but is still prevalent in some cases, is using these WordCast specific deep links, which can lead to dead ends. Or now I know they've switched the name over to Farcaster. Examples of these are links to casts, links to profiles. Another really big one we're starting to see more recently are mini app deep links, where you go to the Farcaster app WordCast and you click copy link and it gives you a canonical mini app deep link. These are all things that we can technically have support for under the hood at some level, and some of them we already do. We try and like convert deep links as much as possible, but it's just kind of a difficult thing for clients to keep up with other clients' deep links, especially as things change, and it kind of just makes it harder to maintain that interoperability. But what is interoperable here and what is an open standard that we all share are these SDK specific functions that do a lot of the things that the deep links were meant to do in the first place. And so there's compose cast, there's view profile, there's a lot more that seem to be in the pipeline. And so we would just recommend that you stick to using those functions as much as possible to make sure that your mini app, works well across as many services as possible, and especially that it, works well in the new Coinbase wallet.
I think also if you have any questions about like specific functions, or if you're using deep links right now, there's generally like a almost parity, I think, with the SDK, like for deep links, like when you share, you can have compose cast, all these sorts of things. I think the Farcaster docs does have a very good section about what's available for actions in the for actions within mini apps directly.
Yep. Yeah, no, their docs are great as well, for sure. Awesome. Let's move to the next one. This is a pretty big one for us as well, is pushing users to authenticate too early. It's great that auth is available through a mini app. It's one of the distinctions that you have this embedded ecosystem. But I think it's also important to make sure that auth is used in the right ways and it's not blocking a user experience. So, for example, if your mini app is mainly focused on I've brought up Paragraph a couple times, because Paragraph, if you don't know, they're kind of like a crypto native Substack. When you go to the Paragraph mini app, the homepage is a feed, and it's a feed of these articles. And so what if, in order to read the articles every single time, I had to go through a dialogue and sign in? That would be kind of an annoying user experience. And on top of that, what is the signing in changing every time? It's maybe different story if it's like personalized, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. Like, the idea is that I don't really need to be signed in to take that action, and it actually is a flaw because it creates more friction for me doing something. But where I do need to sign in is, for example, if I'm minting one of the articles, then I need to connect or sign something with my wallet and make the transaction. Or if I want to sign up for notifications, then they gate that by signing in with Farcaster as like an extra step just to prove who you are. And I really like that tactic. But I think sometimes the sign in can just create extra friction instead of actually leading the user to the value prop in your mini app. The great thing about having things like context data is you can still silently sign a user in. You can set your own analytics of who the active user is, all of that without creating this extra friction of the user having to sign something massively upfront. So you maybe have some extra thoughts there too.
Yeah, I definitely have a few thoughts about this. You put it really well. You wouldn't want to be signing in to read every article, and it's the same thing. Like I wouldn't go into a store that asked me to show my wallet to them straight away before I saw like what was inside. I think it's better to show people and then let them test the mini app, see what it actually does before we ask for authentication, before we ask to connect the wallet. It's just also it makes people feel safer, like rather than just having to connect straight away. Because if I have to connect, and while we're used to it, I think at the moment we're all using Webcast, but once we start to use different clients, Farcaster, but once we start using different clients, it's a bit jarring, and that makes it an extra hurdle for your user. So we really want to step away from this pattern, and we want to be meaningful when we ask for authentication, be meaningful when we ask for anything to do with a wallet, like wallets. If we're going to transact, let's connect with the wallet. If we're not going to transact, if it's you're just there, you're looking around, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that, like, I've seen it a lot, and I'd love to hear like other people's opinions about this, of course. But I think Dylan and I are on the same page with this. Like, it just doesn't feel like great UX from a user's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely echo on that. Like another one we were talking about off stream is sign in with Farcaster, which like sign in with Farcaster is great. And there are actually so many things that are making it even easier. Auth addresses is one of them. Another one you may have seen is Quick Auth, which is a lot faster and also gives the developer back a JSON web token. So you have like an entire dynamic session, like which fully takes care of your auth. But I think with these things, like what is the extra like need for that signature or that extra proof or that friction when there's already context and other things available that let the user get through the front door and like get to that point where you're going to need the auth or whatever it is for them to like do something big in your mini app. Isn't to say that you shouldn't be like logging or knowing who your users are, etc. It's just like making sure that it doesn't compromise the flow of your mini app.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You're right.
Awesome. Another one is not making full use of the metadata spec. So when we streamed last, there were some brand new fields that were added to the metadata spec. I'll pull the docs back up just to show this. We have them on our docs. There's an icon URL, subtitle, description, screenshots, category, tags, hero image. This is an example of what it all looks like. What this data allows us to do is to more prominently feature mini apps through places like search, on an apps tab with things like trending. Just gives it much more of a real feel. Like think of some of this data like App Store like data. Like when you go to the Apple App Store and there are trending carousels with banner images, and then you click into the mini app and it has the icon and it has different screenshots and description. Like all that is there for a reason. It makes it more appealing for the user. It makes it easier for platforms to surface all of that. We're still seeing lower numbers than we'd like to of developers using this. There's more than there were last time, so that's great. But again, if you set this data right now, that gives you even more of a leg up, makes you stand out even more, makes your mini app look even higher quality. So we would just highly recommend doing so.
And also just like a shout out to MiniKit. If you're making a brand new mini app with MiniKit, this is already set up for you correctly. So it's just a matter of going through the process to set up your manifest just like you normally would, and you will get all the correct labels in the manifest.json. Also in the docs, what I really love that you've just recently added is like you've actually added the sizes of the images as well. Is that right, Dylan?
Sorry?
You've added the sizes of the images required.
Oh, yes. They should be in there. So if you go back into these docs, for the OG image, it is 1.91:1. That's like what it's been. For the hero images, it's the same. For the screenshots, their portrait, kind of like an app store. So yeah, all the information should be here in terms of like what format it needs to be in. And if you're using, like, so you just mentioned, if you're using Minikit, we've updated it to make sure that the boilerplate has all this data. But if any of it is missing or you have any questions, feel free to let us know.
And in Minikit, you'll also have like examples of the sizes too, to try
Yes.
and make it a bit easier.
Awesome. Great. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I think kind of falling in, just making sure that your manifest file is properly formatted. You can use the Farcaster manifest tool. You can use the local manifest generator that's part of Minikit. I think just making sure that all the data is set there is really crucial. That's like the core infrastructure, the framework, and then your mini app sits on top of all that. So the better that is, the less you have to worry about it and make sure that everything is properly indexed across clients. And another one here, which we went over in the docs, but is sending recipient funds. And so I think something we're trying to work through is making sure that the user still has a choice in a multi-client world of what client they want to be transacting with and sending funds to. And so while it's still kind of like a rougher rule of thumb, what I brought up a couple minutes ago is developers could, if they are more transactional based in the moment, like a example is like a tab, which is kind of like a on-chain Venmo in a mini app. In that example, I'm actually using the active wallet session. And so I think it's fine if I jump between clients. I'm okay using that active wallet session in that client to pay for something. But if it's a world like a warp slot where it's more static and I have a wallet address that is set somewhere, then it would be great to choose. Like a great example of this, actually, I was scrolling through the other day testing some mini apps, and I went into the rounds.wtf mini app for essentially like rounds for communities to earn, micropayments. And I went in and I was just pressing buttons, and under settings, it says update payout address, which I thought was really cool, like a really nice UX there. So that's something that we would recommend. And we're still working through this. So if you kind of fall into this bucket of mini app and you have questions or you're working through it, feel free to reach out to us. And notifications. So we still don't have support yet for notifications. What I can tell you is that as far as I know right now, there should be no changes. So if you already have notifications in your mini app or you're planning on adding them, you can just follow all the docs from Minikit. It has a notification stack with Upstash Redis already set up for you. Many other ways to, manage notifications like Nanar, for example. But once they are live, we will definitely let developers know and make sure that they work well. But you should be able to just use notifications how they work. And when that flip is switched and when it goes live, again, they should just work out of the box.
So I think like the best plan of attack here, if you're a dev, is just keep building the way that you're building. Don't like you can build your notifications the way you want to. They will work eventually when we have them in the new Coinbase wallet. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.